Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the tragedy of Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark, a play by William Shakespeare, which was first written between the years of 1598 to 1602. It was first performed in the year 1603. This is Shakespeare's longest and one of his most popular plays. Okay, so the sources that Shakespeare referenced while composing his play are the Tragedies of Belforest, which was a work published by a writer called Belforest in the year 1570. And there was also an older work called Historica Danica of Saxo Grammaticus. So you can see that the sources that Shakespeare used were extremely wide and varied. There was also another tragedy called the Tragedy of Hamlet, which has been changed by Shakespeare to suit his slightly more modern audiences. Let's talk about the characters in the play. You obviously have Hamlet, who's the Prince of Denmark. You have Gertrude, who is his mother. You have Claudius, who is his uncle. You have Ophelia, who is his lover. You have Polonius, who is her father and a courtier in Claudius's court. You have Laertes, who is Ophelia's brother and obviously Polonius's son. Then you have Horatio, who is Hamlet's friend, and you have a ghost, the ghost of Hamlet's father, who is a very important, albeit minor character in the story. Then you have Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, Hamlet's school friends, who are hired by Claudius to keep a watch on Hamlet. And then you have Fortinbras, who plays a relatively minor role in the story. Okay, so the story begins when Hamlet returns from school in Wittenberg. He was at school in a place called Wittenberg, and he comes home to the marriage of his uncle Claudius and his mother Gertrude, just 2 months after the death of his father. So Hamlet is understandably very, very upset by this sudden turn of events, even though his uncle and his mother encourage him to try and move on and forget whatever has taken place and to be a part of their new lives. Hamlet is very upset, and then his friend Horatio comes up to him and tells him something very strange. He tells him that he has seen the ghost of his father walking around at night, and he's seen this 2 or 3 times, but the ghost never speaks. So Hamlet is confused and very intrigued. So he decides that he will stand and watch with Horatio to see whether this ghost comes again. And the ghost does. It arrives again, and this time it beckons Hamlet. It tells him to follow him. And when Hamlet follows him, the ghost tells him that his uncle has murdered his father, that is the ghost, and that Hamlet must avenge his death. Hamlet is very confused. He doesn't know whether the ghost is telling the truth. He doesn't know what to do. So he decides that he's going to pretend to be mad, which will buy him some time to figure out what to do. It will give him time to observe his uncle, his mother, to see how they behave, whether this actually might be true or the ghost might be telling a lie. So Hamlet is essentially a very indecisive and confused personality. So what Hamlet decides to do is to feign madness, and his mother and his uncle are very concerned by this. So they call up, or they bring two friends of Hamlet's from school named Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and they ask them to watch Hamlet and to report back how Hamlet behaves and what he does. Also, Polonius, who is a courtier in Claudius's court, also watches Hamlet very closely. His daughter Ophelia is in love with Hamlet. She's been Hamlet's kind of on again, off again girlfriend for a while, lover for a while. So Hamlet begins to act like a mad person. And Polonius's conclusion is that he's acting out of love, that he's fallen so madly in love with his daughter that he has gone mad. And he goes and tells this to the king. And the king and Polonius decide to decide to watch Hamlet and Ophelia interact so that they can come to a conclusion. Hamlet is very rude to Ophelia. He tells her to go to a nunnery, that he doesn't love her, he never loved her, and Ophelia is understandably very, very upset by this. Ophelia's brother Laertes has gone to France. Just keep this in mind, that her brother has gone to France. Hamlet decides to hire a group of tragedians to act out his father's murder, and he decides that he will observe his uncle's reaction to see how he reacts. So the tragedians perform a play called The Murder of Gonzago, in which one of the players, he puts poison in the sleeping king's ear and marries the queen, or Hamlet's mother as it is. And then Hamlet watches his uncle's reaction, and then he sees his uncle suddenly start up and ask the play to stop. So he realizes, okay, the ghost was telling the truth. Then he decides to confront his mother. Unknown to him, Polonius decides to hide behind the curtain and listen to Hamlet and his mother's conversation. So Hamlet and his mother have a very intense, very almost sexual conversation, which is very weird. And then this has led some critics to say that Hamlet has an Oedipus complex, which we won't get into right now. But they have a very weird conversation. And hearing a noise behind the curtain, Hamlet thinks that it's Claudius, and he suddenly decides to stab the curtain. But of course, it's Polonius, and Hamlet basically stabs him. Now, Polonius has died, and Ophelia actually goes mad. She cannot handle the fact that her lover is responsible for the death of her father, and Ophelia commits suicide. Supposedly, as narrated by Gertrude, she climbs up a tree, and while she was walking the branch of the tree collecting flowers, she fell into the brook that was below the tree and died. So Ophelia is dead, Polonius is dead. Now Laertes returns from France, and he's obviously very, very distressed, and he wants to know the reason that all this tragedy has befallen his family. And Claudius promises him that he will be avenged. So Hamlet is packed off to England, and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are sent with him. And there is a letter which Claudius gives to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern asking the King of England to kill Hamlet. But Hamlet discovers this letter. He manages to escape the ship, and he exchanges the letter with one that says that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are going to be killed. So they are also killed. Hamlet returns to Denmark, and on his return, the king decides that he will ask Laertes to challenge Hamlet to a kind of fencing match in which the tip of the sword will be poisoned, and as a backup plan, a glass of wine will also be kept, which will also be poisoned. And if in case Laertes does not manage to stab Hamlet, he will be given the glass of wine as a refreshment, and he will die anyway. So the match begins, and Hamlet stabs Laertes with his own sword. Gertrude drinks the glass of wine by mistake and dies. Hamlet realizes what has happened, and he has also been stabbed by Laertes, so he dies as well. He also manages to stab Claudius finally, as kind of a revenge for everything that has happened. And the play ends with Fortinbras, who is the kind of the ruler of Norway, coming in, stepping in, and taking over charge of Denmark on Hamlet's behalf. So this is how the play ends. Now there is some very important symbolism in this play. One symbol is the flowers which Ophelia gives while she's in her mad state. So flowers were very important to Elizabethans. So she gives rue, and she gives out carnations and all those flowers which she gives out. So the flowers play a very important role in the play. So and then there are several themes which you can discern from the play itself. Like there's this theme of indecisiveness, and then there's this theme of scrutiny, in which in the play everyone is always watching each other. Hamlet is watching his uncle, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are watching Hamlet, Polonius is also watching Hamlet, Ophelia is watching Hamlet. So you can also see a theme of scrutiny and kind of surveillance in the play. So this is a very wonderful play. If you do get the time, please do watch it and let me know what you thought. Thanks for listening. If you've been listening so far, do let me know if you want me to record any other plays. And don't forget to subscribe if you actually liked what I just said. Thank you.